These AlphaRex LUXX-Series LED Projector Headlights with the jet black housing and clear lens are for the 2018 through 2020 F-150 owners looking for a modern and stylish headlight for the front of their truck, and one that will perform a whole lot better than the factory halogen lighting. Now, these headlights feature a full LED build, outshining that factory set tenfold, which makes this perfect if you're currently struggling day to day with the lighting performance that you currently have and you want a headlight to boost your confidence while you're driving at night. Now, this set also has an edge on some of the standard aftermarket choices, incorporating some unique features like selectable amber or white running lights, sequential functions, and more if you know you want a set of headlights that's both stylish and functional for your F-150. I do want to call out that these are specifically for the F-150s with halogen headlights out of the factory, so just make sure that you're getting the right ones for your truck. As I said, this set brings a lot to the table with the design, featuring a full LED construction with projector lenses being a complete 180 from the factory halogen light technology. Now, that combination here creates a clearer, brighter, and more consistent beam pattern, making dark roads much easier to see on a daily, or should I say nightly basis. And they're also going to create a sharp cutoff line, which helps reduce any reflection that you get from such a bright light. Now, the bordering fiber optic tube style daytime running light is also a big feature of this set, including an activation light feature when unlocking your F-150 and a selectable color option, whether you want that traditional white appearance for a sharp look or an amber DRL for more of that off-road styling. Now, this set also has that tri-bar amber turn signal right in the middle, but also incorporates the turn signal in the DRL, switching back to an amber color and sequencing with the signal, all making your truck stand out on the street for safety and, of course, styling. Now, these feature a polypropylene housing structure, which is a tough plastic material being resistant to fluctuating temperatures, and that material is molded for a factory-like fit. Now, the internal housing is also a jet black for a super dark and more glossy appearance compared to other matte black options if you do prefer more of that polished or glossy appearance. Now, on the front of each light, these also have a clear polycarbonate plastic lens, which is also tough when it comes to plastic, being impact resistant to eliminate the risk of damage from kick-up or hazards for wherever you're taking your F-150. Now, the lenses also have an anti-fog coating to prevent the lens from fogging over time and hindering the illumination, and an anti-yellowing and oxidation coating, which keeps the headlights looking crisp and new for much longer. Now, on the back, these also feature venting, which enhances the airflow within the lighting, allowing moisture to escape and eliminates the lights or the lenses from having any moisture buildup within the lights themselves. The set here is also compliant with SAE and DOT standards and has a simple plug-and-play installation for a hassle-free process. Now, these are about $975, which is on par for what these bring to the table. Now, these have a full LED build in addition to other features that really make this unique compared to some entry-level choices without completely blowing the budget on a super premium set. Now, this option also offers a solid balance between the price point being fairly moderate compared to the rest in the category and the function if that's what you're in search of when it comes to choosing a set of headlights for your F-150. Install here is a lighter 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, just because you do have to do a little bit of disassembly to get the factory headlights out and these into place. So I would set about 2 hours aside in order to get the job done. At this point, I'm going to hand it over to one of our installers here. They're going to show you a detailed breakdown on how you can bolt these up to your F-150 at home. So that wraps it up for what I have to say. Let's go ahead and get into the install.
For this install, you will need an impact, a ratchet, 7, 8, 10, 11, and 13 millimeter sockets, a Phillips head screwdriver, needle nose pliers, wire crimpers, a clip removal tool, and also not shown here but will be needed is a fuse tap. Alright, today we're going to be installing some headlights on our F-150, but before we get started, we're going to send you to watch a quick video on how to remove your factory setup, and we'll see you when you get back.
First thing we need to do to remove our headlights is remove this filler panel underneath our grille. And to do that, there are 2 screws on either end of this filler panel in the fender lip area. Then we're going to use our 7 millimeter socket to remove those 2 screws on each side. All right, so we've got 2 7 millimeter bolts right here on the inside of the fender lip. So we're going to go ahead and remove those with our 7mm socket. And now you can remove the 2 screws on the other side of the vehicle. Now with our screws removed, we can just grab a hold of the inside edge of this filler panel and start pulling it away. It's only held in with plastic clips, so we just grab a hold, give it a tug, and start pulling it away. Next thing we're going to do is remove our radiator shroud here, and we've got 14 push pins that we need to remove. To do that, we're going to use our trim removal tool and just pop these up out of the way. Now with the push pins removed, we should just be able to lift this up and pull it away. All right, next we've got a couple of connectors here that need to be disconnected. Depending on the configuration of your truck, you may have 1 or 2, but let's go ahead and get those disconnected first, and then we'll remove the 4 10mm bolts on top to go ahead and remove our grill. So here are our connectors. You're just going to reach in, push down on the release lever, and disconnect it. Same thing for the other one. Now, like I said, you may have 1 or more. Just push in on the release lever and pop it out. Now you may also have a plastic push pin connector right here to hold the harness in place. Ours happens to be missing, but just go ahead and pop that out with your trim removal tool, and then we can remove the 4 bolts on the top. Now we've got 2 13mm bolts, one in the corner here and one on the other side of the grill. So we'll go ahead and remove those, and then we can slide our grill out. All right, now just grab a hold of your grill and pull it straight back. All right, now we're ready to remove our headlight. And to do that, we've got 2 10mm screws at the top here, plus this plastic push pin. So we'll use our trim removal tool to remove the plastic push pin and our 10mm socket to remove those 2 bolts. All right, now we've got 3 more to remove at the bottom here. We've got an 8mm here on the inside, a 10mm next to it, and another 10mm on the outside. So we'll go ahead and take those out. Now we get our 8mm. All right, now we need to separate this plastic trim piece at the bottom from our headlight. So we'll use our trim removal tool and just pry this down and get it separated. And then we can go ahead and pull our headlight straight back. Now we can disconnect our 3 connectors at the back of our light simply by pushing in on the release lever on the connector and pulling it straight back. And now you can repeat that process for the other light.
All right, welcome back. Now that we have our factory headlights off, the first thing we'll need to do before we install our new headlights is to install our DRL harness. So we've got our harness. We also have a fuse tab, which does not come with your kit, but you will need one unless you want to tap into a different power source. This is the easiest. These are readily available for pickup at any automotive parts store for a few bucks. What we're going to do is attach this fuse tab to our gray wire, which does come pre-stripped. These usually do come with a butt connector on them. So we've got our wire crimpers. We'll set this in here, that lined up. We're going to take our gray wire, put it into our butt connector. Make sure that's nice and seated. Give that a solid crimp. I like to give just a light tug on this just to make sure it's a solid connection before moving forward. So once we have this in, we're then going to go to our fuse junction block and find fuse number 36. That's a 10 amp fuse. We'll show you where that is. We're going to pull that out, get that fuse into our open slot on our fuse tab, and then plug this right in where that came out. So we're going to open the cover on our fuse block. Now it does have 2 sections to it. Just want to pop the tabs back. Both of these will come out. I'll set these aside. So we're looking for fuse number 36, which is going to be this 10 amp right next to this larger 20 amp relay. We're going to use needle nose pliers. If you don't have a fuse puller, needle nose works just fine. Pop this out. Once we have this out, we're going to put this right into the open slot on our fuse tab. Get that seated. We're going to plug this tap right back into where that fuse came out. So that sits in there nicely. Then we can reinstall our lid. Now if you want a more flush fit, you can notch the edge of your lid out to allow the wire to pass through a little easier. For demonstration purposes, we're not going to do that. Get that locked in. We'll get this part in as well. Next, we'll need to hook up our positive and negative terminals to our battery. Now, your positive wire on this circuit has an inline fuse. What we're going to do is remove this fuse for the time being. This will keep this circuit dead until we have everything hooked up and we're ready to turn it on. So just take the cover off, pop that fuse out. We'll just set it right here for now. So then we're going to grab our positive terminal, which is an open-end connector. We're going to take our 11mm socket. We're just going to loosen up our nut on our positive terminal. Slide this in. And tighten this right back down. Then we can do the same thing for our negative. So we'll grab our 13mm socket for that. So now we have our 2 connectors, one for each headlight. You have a shorter leg and a longer leg. The shorter leg is going to go right here to the passenger side. You want to route that into the headlight area. Then you can route your driver's side over to your other headlight area. Now feel free to do this however you'd like to tuck it and clean it up. Just make sure it's out of the way of any hot or moving parts. You don't want to damage your harness or the vehicle in the process. So we'll take our shorter leg. Just drop this right down here. And we have that in our headlight area. Then you can run your driver's side over and do the same thing. All right, so now we have our new headlight up on the table. Now these headlights do come with the option of either running an amber or a white DRL. There's a way to switch that. It is behind this bottom box, so we'll show you how to get this off and make that switch if you so choose. And again, you can run white or amber. What you'll need is a Phillips head screwdriver. We're going to remove this bottom bracket, get to our box, remove that, and then we'll find the plug if you want to plug it in or unplug it, depending on which style light you would like. So first we'll take off the 3 Phillips head screws for this bracket. Once you have those 3 screws out, pop that bracket off and set it aside. Then you'll have 4 Phillips head screws holding this box in. We'll take those out. Once you have your screws out, you want to gently pull this box back. That is going to expose your plug. So if you would like to run amber DRLs, you want to plug this connector together. If you wish to run white, as it is now, you leave these unplugged. So we'll plug ours in since we're here to run amber first. We'll also show you what the white's going to look like. Plug that in. Tuck that back into place. And once you have this tucked back in, you can reinstall your 4 screws. We can bring back our bracket, put that into place, make sure that lines up, and we'll reinstall our 3 screws for that. Now once again, these headlights do come preset to the white DRL setting, so if you wish to stick with that, you don't need to do any of this process. However, if you wish to run the amber DRLs, you will need to do this and do the same thing on your other headlight. Alright, so now we're ready to plug in and install our new headlight. So we've got that wire from our harness that we installed just a minute ago. That's going to go into this white wire with these bullet connectors. We'll plug that in first. Make sure that it's nice and tight. And we're going to grab our factory body side harness. These do have factory style connectors. We'll plug this one in first. Make sure that snaps in. Our turn signal right as well. And then our marker light. Once you have all this plugged in, we'll set our headlight in place. So we'll get our headlight lined up. We're just going to loosely install our upper 2 10mm screws first. This will hold this in place. Then we'll get the rest of our hardware back in. Now we can get our lower mounting hardware in. We're going to get our bracket installed first. So we'll get our 10mm socket for this one. And we'll install our other 10mm over here. One down low that I also took out. And we'll need to get our 8mm socket back in up top. Now we'll get our 8mm screw in up front. Their 8mm socket, and we'll come back up and tighten down our 2 10s up top. Now we'll grab our 10mm socket and tighten these 2 down. Now once you got this side installed, you can repeat the same process for your other headlight, and we'll come back and reinstall our grille and our shroud. Alright, so now that we have both of our headlights in, we're going to reinstall our grille first. So we'll get this lined up. this back in. We'll get our two 13mm screws in down bottom, then we'll work on the top. Now we've got our 13mm socket. We're going to reinstall our lower mounting bolt. Once you get this one in, you can do the same thing for the other side. Now while we're down here, we'll reinstall our lower valence. Get this lined up. Make sure your tabs are centered. Push that back in, then we'll get our sides back in place. Now to get your sides back in place, it's a lot easier if you kind of push in right in the lower middle of your headlight area. Get that pop back in. We'll grab our 7mm socket, reinstall our screws. And you want to do the same thing for your lower screw and repeat this process on the other side. Now we can grab our 10mm socket and reinstall our 4 10mm screws up top. You do want to make sure your grill is sitting how you like. Next, we're going to reinstall our active shutter plugs. Just get those lined back up. Push those back into place. Then we can reinstall our upper shroud. And we'll get our shroud back in place. You want to make sure this goes under your intake duct. And seated. Then we can reinstall all of our push clips. Just line those back up. Pop the center in. And once you got your first few in, you can just do the same thing for the rest of your clips and you're good to go. Now lastly, you can reinstall your provided fuse, install your waterproof cover, tuck that in. Alrighty, that about wraps up our review and install of our AlphaRex LUXX-Series LED Projector Headlights with jet black housings and clear lenses for your 18 to 20 F-150 with factory halogen headlights. Thanks for watching, and as always, for everything F-150, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.